welcome to the 7th episode of Harvesting Our Wellbeing as Educators. And my name is Hugh Fitzmaurice. I'm a secondary school teacher from Dublin.
Hello, and I'm Maura O'Higgins. I'm a chaplain in a secondary school in the inner city in Dublin.
Seasons of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun. That's how Keats defined autumn. And this week, in his poem, An Ode to Autumn, this week myself and Maura decided to talk about nature and the role of nature in education. And we both believe it has a vital role to play. And particularly, I suppose, at this time of the year, in autumn, when we have such vibrant colours and we have just the changing of the seasons as we slowly go towards winter. And I suppose with a pandemic going on outside our schools and beyond, there's something very rich and powerful about what the role nature can play in schools, for ourselves as educators, and in our classrooms. And Maura, I don't know what your thoughts, what you think about that.
Yes, Hugh, I agree wholeheartedly with you. And it beggars belief, it astounds me, it always has, that we build schools architecturally, one, without consulting children, and secondly, we build schools without paying due attention to beauty. We don't ensure that schools are closely connected to nature. Steiner schools are built with as many round and curved walls as possible, and with as much natural material in the construction of the school and the desks and chairs and the school furniture. But we don't do that in general in Ireland, and therefore we're closing off nature. And nature, I think, because of the way we've designed and built schools, is an accident if it ends up as part of the school day. And that's just, it's kind of daft if you were to look at it and say, let's design schools. So that's a disappointment.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, do we think, as you said, do we think of nature when it comes to the architecture? Do we think of how the role it can play, light can play, or greens around us, or what surrounds the school, or what's in our classroom, plants and nature for kids and for ourselves, when we know it gives us such sustenance? That's a brilliant. 100% agree with you. How many schools have actually incorporated that in their design? And like I was looking recently there at I think I was talking about this, about the whole idea of grounding, and how if you basically walking in your feet in nature, whether it's on grass or woodland or just outside in your feet, is supposed to be really, really good. Scientifically, it's proven there's electrons that go into your body and can just kind of give you a lift almost, so, and that teachers and students, how much time are they getting in nature, even, or doing something like that in some form in a school day. And they're saying often kids can act out because they're in concrete all day, they're not near nature at all, and that mightn't help in their behavior, where if they're getting an opportunity to be on a green or near nature in some form, it can actually help to calm things, to get clarity,
Yeah.
And I know myself, before, like anytime before, even in the mornings, just taking a few deep breaths, regardless of the weather, just outside, taking a few deep breaths and taking in the fresh air and being aware of that makes a huge difference.
It does, Hugh. And now we have these masks, and we have sanitized desks, and children have to sit at the same desk all day, every day. So it's all the more important that we get these breaks within the school day to be able to go out into nature. And it's lovely when we can, but it's not built into the curriculum. It's not part of the normal running of the school day, which is a disappointment. However, without being unduly negative, it is possible. And I love that it's through poetry, through going for walks within the school day, having beautiful things, natural materials, and I know we're limited with COVID, but there's a continuum of support model in education for children who have special education needs, and they have an individual education plan, and in that plan, things like rest breaks are built into it. Why doesn't every child in every school have a rest break built into their school day so that they can freely get up, go out, walk around the building, or maybe in pairs, and building up a trust relationship where the children can get their nature break? Wouldn't it be just fabulous? Steiner, the Rudolf Steiner training that I undertook a number of years ago, is where I first encountered the importance of nature in education, and how when we take care of our connection with external nature in education, it impacts on our human nature. And Steiner talks about 4 temperaments. Let me see, phlegmatic, choleric, sanguine, and what's the 4th one? Melancholic. And he advocated that a classroom be made up of a good balance of those 4 human characteristics. And seating plans are then arranged on that basis. Now, what teacher thinks of the characteristics of the child when they're doing a seating plan? Steiner also advocated for the teacher's attention to be paid to their own characteristic, and maybe the things they mightn't notice if they were a naturally melancholic person, and paying attention to the balance of human interaction. So nature outside, nature inside. It's the way forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with that, Moira. Absolutely, yeah. Look at that. Like nature helping us to connect with human nature, and Shakespeare says the quote, "One touch of nature makes the whole world akin." One touch of nature makes the whole world akin. And I looked it up, that quotation, and it basically, he was saying, like, when we connect with our own human nature, our own feelings, it connects humanity. Going back to the word Ubuntu we said a few weeks ago, that connected, and I suppose nature can bring us back to ourselves. It can get us out of our heads, back into our body, and whether that's the sounds of the birds, or it's to do with touch, natural materials that you talked about there. And you said it there a few minutes ago, how it can inspire us and give us a sense of serenity. And if we think of all the poets, the William Wordsworth and John Keats and W.B. Yeats, and talks about the wild swans are cool, the trees are in their autumn beauty, the woodland paths are dry, the beauty of the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, just in the cadence and the sound of the words. There's a kind of relaxation in the natural world. And if we don't incorporate that into our schools, well, it's just ridiculous, but yet we just don't think of it. And as you said there, just to take the breaks in nature, if there's an opportunity, particularly now with masks on and so much uncertainty out there, just why not? There's so much learning we can get from going outside and just walking out in the air for a few moments, and then go back to class. Like, I'm thinking we're a week before midterm, and I'm feeling a little bit tired. And I know one of the restorative areas will be nature. It'll help me restore, and I think we said a few weeks ago, Moira, about the trees are now in their wisdom, in their infinite wisdom, the oak trees and all the rest. And I think the Druids from the Celtic society were all about knower of trees. That's what Druid means, the knower of trees. They used to follow the trees and the wisdom they would give them. And the Celts would slow down this time of the year. But the trees, they, as I said, take back in the energy from the leaves, and that's why you have all this beautiful myriad of color, and they restore themselves. So as go back to human nature, we need to do that. We can't just thinking we can go into class, learn like a normal day, and go back home. Good luck with you. Good luck, lads. We need to restore ourselves, for God's sake. And there's a learning for me in it that I'll help. It'll help bring myself back into my body. For the kids, and I'm sure it'll help in the relationship we have in the classroom and outside the classroom. So I'm thinking this week, just a week before midterm, try to incorporate nature as much as possible, taking the lead from what you're after saying there. Straight out, like, why just take breaks, because they're not breaks, they're learning. There's learning in it. There's a learning being outside, having a conversation outside the classroom, the beauty of nature. And regardless of the weather, I heard, whether it's rain, whatever it may be, there's always something we can do around it, or even incorporate it into the class in some form. because it has inspired beautiful music, beautiful poetry, beautiful writing, and it's an inspiration for humanity, and it also helps us become composed and calm within ourselves, in this materialistic mad world. I think in our reflections, I think hopefully I'm becoming a little bit more reflective. Nature has been a huge guide and inspiration for me, just to slow it down and observe as we said, the quiet miracles of the everyday in what's happening in nature.
It's true, and I came across this this piece from John O'Donoghue, and I'm going to read it to you, and it's extraordinary. I think what you've talked about is the external nature and the impact it can have on our human nature and our connectedness through Ubuntu. This is what John O'Donoghue wrote. The invitation to friendship with nature entails a willingness to be alone out there. This aloneness is anything but lonely. Solitude gradually clarifies the heart until a true tranquility is reached.
Can you read that last part again more? Sorry,
yeah,
solitude.
it's beautiful. Solitude gradually clarifies the heart until a true tranquility is reached. And what he's saying really is, let's get comfortable on our own in nature. Let's develop that skill so that we become comfortable with solitude, and then it clarifies the heart. Sure, teaching is what we do from the heart. It's really beautiful. It's from Beauty, the Invisible Embrace by John O'Donoghue. And yeah, Pedagogy of the Heart. So why not nature breaks for us all as part of what we do in education? And we're going to get through this autumn into winter by following the rhythm of nature.
Well, absolutely, Maura, and it'll help us feel more alive. It'll like going back to the poets, the romantic poets, they were always searching for the sublime in nature, that sense of the sublime. And I know Heaney has taught in postscript about the heart being blown wide open by nature. I think Evan Boland, who sadly passed away a while back, she talked about the grandeur of nature and the power of nature, and what it can do. So why wouldn't we just learn from that and just see for ourselves? We know ourselves, anytime we're out in it, there's a sense of openness. I think, and beyond the four walls of the classroom. And what you said was really important as well, about like how are we designing our classrooms? Is there nature being incorporated into it? Like, I think it's a really important conversation, that, and then the sheer beauty. Keith said, beauty is truth, beauty. And if one of the things that is really beautiful around us, that surrounds us, and we can often be willfully blind to it, it is nature. And it can bring out the best in human nature, connecting those two. So, if that is not part of education, well, then there's a problem.
You're so right. You're so right, Hugh. There was a Filipino child a couple of years ago. Now, I know he won't mind my saying his name. It was such a beautiful name. Lucky Boom was his name. And Lucky Boom was sitting in class, and he was in first year. And he'd only come to Ireland a couple of months beforehand. And it was November. We looked outside the window, and he said to me, "There's white rain outside, miss." And I said, "What's she talking about?" So we all looked out the window. We were upstairs, and it was snowing. The child had never seen snow. And he said, "Can I go down? Can I go down?" And now I should have taken them all down, but I said, I let him and a friend go down. And they just stood dancing in the snow, and the rest of us stood laughing upstairs. Now, that happened about 10 years ago, and it had a profound impact on all of us. And that was nature. That was nature. And that's what we need to do, because it just eases the heart and brings joy.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking more about brings joy, and that dance that you're saying isn't a wonderful image. Like, and indigenous people throughout the history the Aboriginals or Native Indians or Celtic people in Ireland, you know, saw nature as a sanctuary, you know, something to be honored, you know, and something that's sacred. And now more than ever with biodiversity and our problems with our planet, like nature is something that is so sacred that we want to hold on to. So to use it, not abuse it, and to see the true beauty in it, and that beautiful image of the kids dancing, as you said, they're just beautiful image. Yeah. So
on that note, will we take a moment of stillness?
absolutely, Maura. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Maura, and thank you for listening. Thank you.